everyone on the internet, it seems, is talking about this new New York Times story about Elizabeth Holmes, the famous CEO behind the Theranos fraud, who was known for her mile-long stare, black turtlenecks, and of
the
course,
red lipstick.
Fraud, the red lipstick, and of course, the fraud. She was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud, 3 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud against individual donors, and amounting in something like $140 million. Right. She was sentenced to 11 years in prison and is out on appeal, and was memorialized in a number of television series and movies, including most famously by Amanda Seyfried in a Hulu special that I watched and enjoyed. She had a bizarre, low, gravelly voice. She was one of these people who managed to make it in the tech world, it seemed, largely by cultivating a persona.
Right.
She fooled a lot of very high-profile people into investing in this technology.
Rupert Murdoch, James Mattis, George Shultz.
Yes. And the technology, it seems, on its face, many scientists were very skeptical of. Apparently, in her college program,
including at Theranos, included within the company.
Yes. Theranos. So apparently, she was this young, ambitious woman at Stanford, I believe. She went to one of her professors with this idea. Another woman professor who told her, on its face, this just defies technology. It's not going to work. When you take blood, it's a blood testing machine. I should have mentioned that. And the reason why when you go to the doctor's office, they take so much blood is because you need a certain volume of it to test for all the different things and all the different tests that are required when you get a checkup or what have you. Her innovation was supposed to be that you could take a single drop of blood, put it on a slide, pop it in this black box. It would go rumble, 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 and spit out a whole panoply of results. And she had these huge contracts with, convenient Walgreens, CVS type stores that were supposed to make it so that instead of having to go into a doctor's office for these kind of blood screenings, you could just go to your neighborhood mall convenience store.
If it worked, it would have been amazing. Would have changed the world.
Right.
But it didn't work.
It didn't work.
On all of fraud. She was, so her business partner at the time was an older man, Indian or Pakistani man, I believe.
Who she met on a vacation when she was 18 years old. I think he was in his late 30s when she was 18.
And she kind of puts it on him that he forced her to adopt this persona. And he also got convicted of
he's
fraud.
In jail.
Yeah, he's in jail. This we should say this profile. The reason it's getting so much attention is because it comes across straightforwardly as extremely sympathetic to Elizabeth Holmes, or Liz Holmes. A lot of people accusing the writer of this one for getting totally sucked in by her, and for talking about for taking seriously the idea Elizabeth Holmes suggests in these interviews that Elizabeth Holmes is actually a character she was portraying.
Yes.
It was all a fake persona, and she's actually this sweet, maternal woman who volunteers for a rape crisis hotline and, just didn't mean to hurt people and got, over her head. And I think what many readers is immediately and obviously occurring to them is, how do you know, Amy Chozick, author of this piece at the New York Times, that she's not making a persona for you to engage with here? Right.
So what's so fascinating about this article, if you read it, which I strongly encourage people to do, is that the author is kind of engaging, like speaking out loud through her confusion about what to believe and what not to believe, but seems to never really credit the possibility that she could be getting fooled by someone who is a convicted fraudster. So in one passage, she says, quote, "This warning stuck with me, and it got at something that had been gnawing on me since I first met Ms. Holmes. How do you have an honest conversation with a person whose fraud trial has played out so publicly? I tried to ask Ms. Holmes this directly. How do I believe you when you've been convicted of basically, in parentheses, lying?" I don't know why she had to qualify basically. She's been convicted of lying. It's fraud. Okay. "But how could I ask someone who was nursing her 11-day-old baby on a white sofa 2 feet away if she was actually conning me? How? By doing it, ma'am. You're a journalist, and this is the whole point." So instead of actually engaging with the obvious con, she writes up that she's changed her hair, she doesn't wear the black turtleneck anymore, she has these 2 young babies, she's breastfeeding, she's living this whole mommy and me life, all this stuff. And moreover, participates in Elizabeth's reframing of her co-conspirator and partner at the time of being the one who was driving this whole thing, the one that was really at fault. And to the extent that she engages with her own faults, basically says that she's getting piled on for, quote, girl bossing too close to the sun. So she really weaponizes this idea that because she's a woman, she is getting unfair treatment here, and that she simply really believed that her product was going to work, and she regrets that she just didn't spend more time, working on the science of her product instead of, doing the fraud.
Yeah, it's incredible. This kind of journalism can be interesting. I remember a great piece, I think by, Stephen Glass is the New Republic fraudster. I don't know if you know about that. Mm-hmm. He worked for the New Republic years and years and years ago and produced all these just wildly fake stories. Obviously not as harmful in the same way that what Elizabeth Holmes did, but he got caught and et cetera. He's a well-known journalist fraud. And there was a great piece a couple years ago, probably many years ago now, with one of his former colleagues interviews him, and he's very contrite, and he's very apologetic, and she's like, look, I want to believe you. We were friends. I'm talking to you. I want to believe you, but you're also so good at this. You're so good at fooling me. And it was very interesting. So this kind of thing can be done successfully. I don't know that this piece is really a good example of that.
Absolutely not. I mean, I remember it struck me when I first saw the internet commentary about it. I thought, well, some people they complain about a lot of stuff. Maybe this article really isn't that bad. It opens thusly. Elizabeth Holmes blends in with the other moms here in a bucket hat and sunglasses, her newborn strapped to her chest and swathed in a Baby Yoda nursing blanket. We walk past a family of caged orangutans and talk about how Miss Holmes is preparing to go to prison for one of the most notorious cases of corporate fraud in recent history. Like the motherhood angle is really interesting because it does feel as also like some people
said she had these kids in order to get a lesser sentence.
Exactly. So she ended up partnering with this much younger man. I believe he's 25 years old. His name is Billy Evans. He's deployed in this article as kind of proof positive of her normalcy. A lot of his quotes are about how normal she is. He talks about that weird voice that she used to use, saying that was a character, and kind of beating us to the punch of making fun of it in a way that kind of is, I think, intended to humanize her, saying that was the persona, isn't real. She obviously doesn't talk like that. Yeah, I thought it was weird too, but that's not who she is. Again, this was her under the influence of this older man who forced her to do these frauds and such. And having these two children being breastfeeding, I do think it's all intended to make her seem like someone who should not be in jail, that this is somehow unfair. And this is the way that white-collar criminals are often framed. If someone had stolen $140 million worth of toothpaste, deodorant, and razors from a Walgreens, I doubt they would be getting this kind of treatment in the New York Times. And yet, when you defraud investors, when you steal $140 million, she also apparently bullied one of her employees to the point of committing suicide. She told people they had false positive, cancer patients were being told they had false positives.
A woman was told she was having a miscarriage when she was not having a miscarriage.
Right. And you can imagine the medical implications of that. Am I going to stop taking my prenatal drugs? Am I going to start drinking, et cetera, because I've been told I'm no longer pregnant? I mean, really horrific crimes that do not get anywhere near the level of treatment in this piece as compared to the color of her turtleneck and the fact that she likes to take long walks on the beach with her children.
On the second day we spent together, Mr. Evans asked me what the most surprising part of spending so much time with Miss Holmes was, and this is the author, I told him that I didn't expect her to be so normal. This is not normal behavior. People don't normally do the things Elizabeth Holmes did.
One of the funniest things in this article...
You know, oops, I ran the biggest fraud in all of human history.
But she's sorry, and she's had a couple of children, so that apparently cleanses everything. Apparently, her own editor, she put this in the piece. She says, I was admittedly swept up in Liz as an authentic and sympathetic person. She's gentle and charismatic in a quiet way. My editor laughed at me when I shared these impressions, telling me, and I quote, "Amy Chozick, you got rolled." Got to agree with the editor, although I don't know why the editor didn't have a little bit of a firmer hand.
Listen to your editors, people. Often they know what they're doing. We'll have more Rising right after this.